Hey guys, Minish1 here. Please enjoy this background double proxy gameplay footage as I explain to you the purpose of this video. So I had a conversation with Riot Brightmoon. If you guys don't know who Riot Brightmoon is, he is the executive producer of League of Legends. So there's like a skins team, a balance team. He's kind of like their boss. What the final product is of League of Legends that we get is overseen by him as the executive producer. He has like one of the final says of what the product of League of Legends is. And the reason I want to reiterate before I get into this, Riot Brightmoon has been nothing but attentive and helpful and caring and kind. He is one of the in my opinion brightest stars at Riot that I know of, and he is a huge asset to their company. He's so valuable. Brightmoon, if you see this, if you watch this video, I really appreciate you taking the time to read all of my feedback. You have no idea how much it means to me as a longtime player, enjoyer of League of Legends. This is my favorite game ever, and I want nothing more than to see it succeed for as long as possible. And that's why I messaged you in the first place, because I felt like my concerns about top lane were not being heard by the balance team. And I don't think that they have been for a long time, and my concerns are shared by a lot of other people. So that's the purpose of this video. But before we get into it, a quick word from our sponsor. This video is brought to you by Professor. Professor is this awesome companion app for League of Legends that I use every day. You've heard about its awesome features such as the in-game performance tracker, the in-game jungle timers, champion select analysis, and easy access to high elo replays on just about every champion. Did you know that Professor just added an in-game summoner spell cooldown tracker? You see the enemy flash, you click their flash. You see their teleport, you click their TP. It's just that easy. And if that wasn't enough, Professor also gives you recommended runes that can automatically import to the client, in-depth post-game analysis, and so much more. And it's all free. So what are you waiting for? Try Professor now with my link in the description. Alright guys, so like I said, the purpose of this video is to explain to you guys the conversation I had with Brightmoon. The conversation regarded the fact that I don't think that top laners' concerns are being addressed at all, in a way that actually feels good, or in a way that is actually meaningful to us as players. So if you guys want to see the this is not the abridged version. This is the notes of the conversation that I took. So it's like half abridged. But Brightmoon took the time. And this is why he's such a good person, in my opinion, to help out with this. But he took the time to read all of this, all of these notes that I had for him, on the state of top lane and the timeline as to how it got the way that it is. Right? He read all of that. So I'm going to give you guys the more abridged version, but basically I don't feel that top laners are being heard at all. And I feel like we're being treated as second-class citizens. It's a second-class role compared to like the other roles, mainly jungle and bot lane. And the reason why is because I feel like when top laners have long-term concerns about the health of the game, we are told to basically shut up and we're ignored, or we're told to just sit and wait, things will get better, and then they just always fail to deliver, or they just cancel. And I'll give you guys proof of that. But when it's jungle or bot lane that has issues, like the roles get reworked, like everything gets flipped up, like the whole game gets flipped upside down basically to help those roles, right? And I'm not saying that out of bitterness. I'm just saying, like, as a top laner, this is what we observe over and over. So I messaged Brightmoon, and I said, Brightmoon, you know, I feel like it's kind of weird how top laners have had these concerns about top lane for so long, and they keep telling us, the balance team keeps saying that, hey, we're gonna make things better, we're gonna fix it this time, we promise. But then they'll say, we'll fix it sometime in the near future. And then near future rolls around, and then they always either say, oh, we're gonna have to wait until preseason, we're gonna have to wait until mid-season, and then they'll delay it and push it off. Or what they'll do, what they did recently, is they'll have balance team members on Reddit just straight up say, we're not gonna help top lane anymore. It's not in the plans for the rest of the year. And excuse my French, but motherfucker, it's April. What do you mean we're not gonna help top lane for the rest of the year? Like, you haven't done anything so far. You know, like that meme of like the guy from Sailor Moon, and he's like, my work here is done, and they're like, but you didn't do anything, and then he leaves. It's like that. Like they told us that they're gonna help us, and then they don't, and then they delay it. And then when it comes time to like bother them about, hey guys, what happened? Like, can we help top lane? Then now we're being told that it's not happening at all. And so I got really frustrated. I messaged Riot Brightmoon, who's the executive producer, and he was like, he said, I see your concerns are valid, and I'm gonna bring it up to the balance team or whatever. So I do appreciate that. I'm gonna give you guys a timeline of events as to how top lane got this way, and why I feel that we are being ignored / unheard, everything. So I have named the abridged version of these notes, top lane systematic execution hardcore style crab rave timeline. These are the abridged notes of the notes I showed you before. Let's get right into it. So, in 2021, there was a teleport cooldown nerf. Now, while this didn't really kill top lane, it made it feel much worse, because it made top lane a slightly more of an island, but it wasn't the end of the world. We could still choose, we could make the decision as a player. I feel like I'm okay with letting the enemy top laner get ahead and potentially carry if I can help my team now to stop us from losing the game in the long run, or sorry, in the short term, right? That was a choice that we could make. However, we can't do that anymore, and you guys, you top laners will know why. Fast forward to 2022, patch 12.1 in January. Teleport is reworked to be unleashed, quote unquote, at 14 minutes. This means that we cannot teleport to minions or wards prior to 14 minutes. Top lane is essentially made into an island with this on purpose, where we cannot join skirmishes with our team prior to 14 minutes, or else we just completely lose. Like, there's no way to stop the enemy top laner from snowballing out of control. But this is true for the opposite player as well. Like, if the opposite player's team is losing and they want to go help, then you get to be the one who goes out of control, right? It's not very fair. The other roles don't have to make that decision, because they're able to leave their lanes more freely, slightly, in the case of mid lane, or extremely in the case of support, to help the team to join skirmishes, like to do whatever, to play the 5v5 game, right? This greatly reduced top lane's agency. Top lane's agency means the ability of a player to impact the game. And for the players in top lane, it reduced ours greatly, because we're playing this game where both top laners are just hoping that they don't lose the game by 14 minutes to their team, because they can't leave, they can't do anything. So this means the game begins to revolve more around bot side, because bot lane becomes a more impactful role due to top lane being less impactful. A lot of people believe that when bot lane is strong, top lane is weak, and when top lane is strong, bot lane is weak, and vice versa. I don't know if I fully agree with that, but I see where the argument comes from as a top lane player, because you're so far away from the other side of the map that whenever they're getting ahead, you can't really impact them. But I think that this is a direct consequence of top lane being like gut punched into being this island that it is now due to teleport nerfs, right? For example, it's not for example, but I'll get into the example more after I explain this. But this means that the game begins to revolve more on bot lane, because they're more snowbally, they're easier to gank. You have more control over the dragon objective, which is always really important. This was not like the final nail in the coffin, but it started our burial. It started our cremation. It was the beginning of the end, basically, for top lane. So in 2022 mid-season now, fast forward like 6 months, it was June/July. There occurs two major updates to the game that is, in my opinion, one of the final nails in the coffin. This is the mid-season durability update and the dragon value buff. So the durability update occurs, and squishy champions, basically AD carry / support, they gain more value proportionally from the free armor / MR and HP. So the thing is, with armor and MR, the more of it you have, the less effective each additional point of it becomes. There's diminishing returns, right? Well, AD carry and support champions generally don't have that much armor and MR, just naturally, right? They're not, especially enchanters, right? They're not buying it, they're not itemizing into it, they're not getting it in runes, they just don't have that much of it. So proportionally, compared to bruisers, tanks, melee champions, who get a lot more of it, proportionally, they become way tankier, actually. Like, they benefit more from this update. So, the champions that are traditionally played in top lane, that top laners like to play in top lane, are, again, kind of put on the back burner by this update. And once again, because bot laners are more tanky for free, the lane becomes even more snowbally, and the game revolves around bot lane even more than it already does, or already did at that point. However, the next month or the very next patch, I'm not sure when it was. I could look, but my point will be the same. They increased the value of individual dragon buffs. So now, because top lane cannot join for dragons pre-14 without either being mega far ahead in lane or being willing to give up many plates plus free farm, we can't do anything about the dragon buff, because the dragon being buffed means that bot lane is even more important, because if you control bot lane, you control dragon. If you control dragon, you control the game. If you control the game, you can get the next dragon and snowball and win, because dragon is super powerful, and they made each individual buff even more powerful. So it's just like this circular feedback loop of, oh, bot lane's important because dragon's there. Oh, let's control bot lane. Oh, top lane is bad. Well, let's make it weaker. Oh, let's make bot lane even more important because dragon's even more important now. Let's make top lane even weaker because now there's even less reason for anyone to play around topside or skirmish topside or do anything topside. It basically reduced the only win con for top lane into solo kill the enemy laner 15 times 1v1 by yourself and then try and just like win the game that way. Whereas the other roles don't have to do that, right? Like the other roles get to interact with multiple champions on the enemy and ally team to try and secure victory, you know, in a 5v5 team game, but we don't get to. So that's basically like the nail, one of the nails in the coffin. However, what's even worse than that is in January 2023, or maybe it's February, I don't remember, but Riot Freak joins the team, and he decides that we need to buff AD carries for some reason, and now in Freak's own words, AD carry was already pretty strong. And anyone who's playing in top lane could have told you that, or sorry, playing in high elo could have told you that, that AD carry was already pretty strong. And so we were all collectively going like, what the hell? Like, why are we buffing AD carry? Because in high elo, the only players who thought AD carry was weak were AD carry players who were on massive loss streaks because they just were having bad games, right? But you even have like a large number of high elo AD carry players like fully admitting like, I don't know why they're buffing AD carry, like our role is super strong right now. But they buffed it. So because we buffed AD carry when it was already in contention for being the strongest role in the game, top lane goes from bad to worse to 6 feet under now, because not only do we have zero influence on a huge portion of the outcome of the game, but the opposite side of the map is now way stronger than it already was, which was very strong for zero reason. Freak's reasoning for doing this was that he wanted to make the role more satisfying, but his way of making the role more satisfying was to just strictly increase its power. That's not satisfaction, that's just a buff. But sure. So in addition to this, tower plate value is increased, so if we even dare to step out of lane, if we even think about stepping away from your lane, if you're stuck in a bad matchup, if you're behind, or even if you're ahead, if you even consider leaving your lane pre-14, now they get more tower plate gold. Okay, thanks, Riot. So, at least what they did this year was they partially reverted the dragon value buffs, but overall, the individual dragon value is still stronger than before the dragon value buff update, and so is AD carry. So the game overall still feels way worse for top lane. So what's happened basically is that Riot kept promising top lane fixes since 2021, when we started complaining about them gutting teleports slowly over time, right? Again, season 11 was not super bad, but going into 12, it started to get really bad. So they told us that, yeah, we're gonna look at it, but they kept delaying it. We kept getting told to wait until during the season. After MSI, we'll look at it. Oh, sorry, we didn't have time. We'll look at top lane in preseason. Then preseason rolls around. Then they gut teleport even more. Then they're like, oh, don't worry, we understand that top lane is frustrating right now. We're gonna look at it in mid-season. We'll look at it after MSI. Then they do durability update. Then they do dragon buff update. They're like, oh, we didn't have time to look at it. We didn't have time to look at top lane, guys. We'll look at top lane in preseason. Preseason 2023 rolls around. They don't help top lane. They instead buff everything that makes top lane worse again. Then the balance team was like, and I actually have screenshots of Riot. I'm not gonna name names, but I have 2 separate writers who both told me that they were still gonna help top lane, and they didn't. But then we have season 2023, season 13, where we're at now, rolls around, and we were told that they were gonna do something this season for us. They didn't. Instead, what they did was they slightly reverted an update that didn't really help anything, in my opinion, for high elo top laners. And so now they're telling us, okay, well, just wait until after MSI. And this was a few months ago. But then there's a Reddit post from Riot X's where he says, yeah, that part about helping top lane, we're actually not. We're not planning on helping top lane at all, is basically what his post said. That there's no plans in the works. It's only April. Like, there's a whole season basically left to go. And they just aren't helping. So this is, I saw that, and I immediately, I was like, okay, I'm gonna message Brightmoon, because Brightmoon has in the past been very attentive and very helpful and very courteous and kind. Brightmoon is an absolute hero, and we salute him. I will stand for Riot Brightmoon, okay? And so I was like, hey, listen, I feel like we're not being heard. I feel like we're being ignored. They keep telling us that they're gonna help top lane, and then they just delay it, and then they cancel, and then they delay, and it's just, I don't see this going anywhere. I feel like they're not actually trying to help us. Like, it's been multiple years of top laners having very valid concerns, and I feel like it's just like it's basically unacceptable. Like, I was personally told by 2 different writers that top lane would be addressed in big ways later in the season, but it feels like it's a lie, because now we're being told that there's no plans to help top lane. Like, I don't understand. And I told him, like, this is how I feel. I feel like if jungle or bot lane was this bad and this unsatisfying for this long, Riot would flip the game upside down to accommodate for their complaints, right? But top laners are just told to shut up and wait. We're told to shut up and wait, and then we're lied to repeatedly, and we're treated like second-class citizens, like a second-class role, basically. And okay, I understand, you know, a jungle player could always make the argument, oh yeah, but my role is frustrating too. Yes, your role is frustrating too, but at least your role gets to help decide the outcome of the game. Top lane is frustrating while also just having no say, basically, whatsoever on the outcome for a large majority of games, right? And people always say, oh, but this game, XYZ, my top laner popped off. But then ignore, like, the other 9-10 games where their top laner just did nothing and sat top lane the entire game until one team decided the outcome. Right? Like, because what choice do we have? Like, that's the design that we've been backed into by Riot. It's not fun. And one of the things that I also told Brightmoon was, while I agree that win rates can be very important in addressing the actual strength of certain things in the game, and it's a very helpful tool to create a fun game, win rate shouldn't be the end-all be-all, right? They could have nerfed the individual dragon values slightly, but it's so stronger than what it was before. And even if it helped top lane win rate, that doesn't make top lane fun, right? The win number being higher doesn't make the experience actively less miserable. And I told him that I feel like that's something that's been very forgotten in modern League of Legends. And this was the part where he actually responded to me after reading everything else that I sent him, and he was like, I especially, he said, I especially feel like your feedback on win rates and fun is important. And I read that, and I really like felt it in here, because I felt like finally like someone is understanding, like someone at Riot, like with the power to change things, is understanding that the game is not played on a spreadsheet. League of Legends is not played on a calculator. Like, it's a game, and the game should be fun. You can make something have like a super high win rate, but it still feels like crap to play. You know what I mean? Like, the win rate shouldn't be what decides the design. That should just be an indicator of strength. It shouldn't be whether something's fun. Like, you know how people will sit and play like Yone, and they'll lose like more than half of their games, have a negative win rate. Every time they lose Yone, they're probably gonna run it down, but they're having fun and they keep playing it because it's enjoyable. You know, like that, right? But top lane's the opposite, where it's not fun and it also sucks. It's like, if you're gonna make it suck, like, I understand wanting to make it stronger, but we should be able to have our cake and eat it too. It's a game. A game should feel fun. Like, I shouldn't feel like I'm trapped when every other role has like valid ways to skirmish and interact with other champions pre-14, and top lane just doesn't. You know what I mean? So with teleport, it doesn't even have to be, in my opinion, the fix doesn't have to be like a teleport revert. Like, I mean, yeah, that would be like probably the easiest way to do it. It'd be the most effective way to do it, because in my opinion, like, you know, exhaust and heal, how bot lane have been balanced around those two summoners forever. Imagine if exhaust and heal could not be cast on anybody other than yourself, in the case of exhaust at all, pre-14. Imagine you just couldn't heal your support, or you couldn't heal your AD carry, right? Pre-14. You know what I mean? Imagine as a support player, you were forced to sit in your lane for 14 minutes every game. Even if your AD carry was a dog, right? Imagine you were just stuck there. Imagine if you as a jungler could not gank. You couldn't leave the jungle for 14 minutes. Think about that, right? Like, it's not... People will argue like, oh, but top lane is supposed to be an island. No. Nobody who plays top lane and actually plays top lane will tell you it's supposed to be an island. That's a stupid argument. People who are actually playing top lane, who are primarily queuing top lane and have so for years, we want to be a part of the game. Like, for me, the reason why I play top lane, it's not because the role itself is what drew me to it. Like, the champions that I enjoy are balanced around top lane. The champions I like to play are mostly top laners, like Singed, Garen, you know, Shen, characters like this. Like, it's all top laners. But I feel like other roles, like other roles don't really have that issue. You know what I mean? It's like with mid you can leave, you can roam, right? With jungle you can roam. With bot lane you can, even bot lane can come up to Rift Herald to do Rift Herald, but top lane can't go to Dragon. You know what I mean? Like, why is that? It's because, oh, well, if the enemy AD carry is, or so like, say that enemy bot lane roams to Herald, why does your bot lane not roam? Because the enemy bot lane's ahead, right? And if your support roams, your AD carry probably can't come because they're so far behind that they're useless. So it's better to just sit in lane and farm. So even if your support can come, you're still a 4v5, right? It's basically unfair, is what I'm trying to say. Like, the roles are not being treated equally. They're not being balanced equally, in my opinion. And we keep getting told over and over and over by Riot that they're gonna help. Then they delay it, and then they say JK lol. Now they're just straight up saying we're not gonna do it. And it's been years of this, and I was tired of it. And so that's the main purpose of this video, I guess, is just I've really had enough of it. So I messaged Brightmoon about it, and he was very kind and attentive, and caring, and I feel like he has listened to me, and the complaints that I've shared, not just from myself, but from many other top laners. So we love Riot Brightmoon. If you're watching again, thank you for for taking the time to read all of my spiel about not just top lane, but the game in general. And thank you guys for watching. You know, hopefully the game can get better. I really, really just care so much. I care so deeply about League, and I just want the game to be better. I want it to be more fun. For top lane, I feel like for top lane it's just not fun right now for most of us. And I hope that changes. So, I guess a bit of a different video, but thank you guys for watching. I do appreciate it, and I will catch you in the next one.